Hi. Thanks everybody for joining in. We got some viewers. Like, share, subscribe. I'm having a hard time saying subscribe. I'm getting better at it. So I want to applaud myself
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Yeah.
it's called self-esteem, not we esteem. So, um, so London and I. London is 12 now. That's my oldest daughter, and she was 6. And so we're in Safeway on Benning Road, right? And so there was a gentleman in there who was dressed like a girl. So he was transgender or transsexual, whatever the term was. This is 2014, so back when you could be honest and say that what things that you wanted to say. So she comes up, she said, "Daddy, that's a boy, right, Daddy?" I said, "Yeah, that's a boy." She like, "Can I get some candy?" Yeah, she was done with it. Ran down the candy hall, right? Got her candy. So the dude come over to me and said, "I don't identify like that, right?" We had a little back and forth. Basically, I said, "You think I'm gonna ruin the rest of her understanding at 6 years old for because you decided to change your mind?" I said, "As a daddy, I can't."
Look at P.
So fast forward, right? That's 2016, right? Now, pronoun is something that is obviously recognized at this juncture, especially much more than 2016. Um, do we have an obligation to recognize them? Like, are we obligated to call people what they want to be called? It's a question. Pierre, go ahead. You can start.
No, no, no. We got back here. We just got here. Um, the short answer of it, do you have an obligation to respect somebody? Absolutely. Do you have an obligation to treat a human like a human being?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Because calling them whatever, one doesn't mean that you have to agree with it or that you believe it. They've let you know what they want to be called,
Hmm.
right? Like that is the long and short of it. Do I agree that you identify as this when I believe in your chromosomes? Absolutely not. But I'll call you by your name. If I'm
So you
writing
call them.
documentation, I gotta write the documentation how you prefer to be called, right? That's a legal thing for me now.
Hmm.
Wait, so you said you would call them by their name, but I think Hans was talking about like if they want to be called.
Their pronouns, it's the same thing.
Okay.
When
I
in
mean,
doubt, address someone directly as their name.
like for me, it's more about again, if I don't know many people outside of the places that I work where it's like I like to be called this, right? Or I am a therapist. I will ask my clients, how do you prefer to be like what are your pronouns? How do you prefer to be called? Because that's affirming this individual that I see in a place that in a world that probably won't, right? That is my role as a therapist. That is my role as a good person. Ask me what my personal beliefs are. We can have that conversation off camera. Like, I mean, and that's what it is.
Okay.
Agreed. Um, as I said before, I'm in the realm of healthcare, and when I think of an individual, like the genetic and biological makeup of an individual when it comes to documenting and your physical health, that is one thing. However, what you want to be addressed as, you let me know, and I'm going to respect that. Whether I agree with it, whether I understand it, um, that's a whole sub layer, but I want to make sure that I'm always being respectful to the individual, especially when I'm trying to have a conversation or I'm trying to find information. I do not want the individual to not feel safe or comfortable or feel like, you know what, they don't respect me. So anything that I say from this point moving forward, they're not hearing me because they don't see me the way that I want to be seen. Um,
But just let me ask you a question, right? So yes, I get it, right? You're at work, right? You have an obligation, right? But this is I'm not risky when I'm at work. It's not the show. Right? So I'm asking you, right? Right? So was I? Let me all right. Let me phrase it like this. Was I wrong for telling the guy what I told him 5 years ago? Because I didn't. I said you're a guy. You're a man, right? Right. I'm telling my daughter. He said I shouldn't have said that. I'm like, I can't do that to her. That's my priority, right? So what is that? Let's use that. That way you don't have the pressure. So let's use that example. All right, since you don't want to be risky.
That goes
Hey,
back to your integrity.
Huh?
well, let me chime in. So I just changed my screen name to Master Corey since y'all like calling people whatever they want to be called. C and Alex, hey, refer to me for the rest of this episode as Master Corey, or I might be offended.
Okay, Master
Um,
Corey.
so I just wanted to throw that in there just in case y'all didn't see the update. But that's the only thing I'm gonna answer to. But yeah, y'all continue.
I think in that situation, I mean, the gentleman could have. I wonder what you would have done if he had that conversation with you in front of your daughter and he disagreed with you right then and there. Because then there's an then there's an opportunity for you to, or not even that in that moment. Like, did you have the conversation with your daughter afterwards? Because that's not going to be the first time she's maybe presented in that situation.
Yeah.
Because she goes to school, she's outside in the world, so you don't have to agree with it. But if that man told you, or however he identified, he told you, "Hey, that's not how I prefer to be called. That's not how I identify. I would respect it if X, Y, and Z." What was the need to go back and forth with him about?
Oh, it's my daughter, right? You guys hear me? So check, check, check.
Hey,
Yeah. So it's my daughter. You know what I mean? And so at 6, I have to protect it, right? So per usual, right? She identifies a man, right? I'm gonna let her know, yes, that's a man. Like, do I want to put that in her mind at that younger age? Will she understand it? Right. What she understands and what is biologically correct. I want to make sure she understands what she sees is actual. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really about him. It's just about like me kind of thinking, just very like it was like this, boom, 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 right? What happened, but just I thought through it in that instance.
So the
That would have been my
alternative
reaction
viewpoint,
too.
well,
Say again, sorry.
the alternative viewpoint for me would have been that was a teachable moment to teach tolerance. Like your daughter is smart; she's not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Children are not natively dumb, right?
Hmm.
You can say, okay, pull it to the side, learn to read. That's a man. He prefers blah blah blah. It is what it is, right? Cool. Because in the same way that we're having this conversation about pronouns and he, she, we, whatever, that's the conversation that was had about the gays. That's the conversation that's still happening about the gays. That's the conversation about the blacks. That's the conversation about like any marginalized group. You can just replace it and say, do I use this to say I don't agree with you? Like, what is the purpose of me arguing with you? Sure, okay. Sir, ma'am, whatever, got you, heard you. Blah, 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 just what it is, privately, right? You have now affirmed that person's dignity and
Hmm.
still been able to teach your daughter that these people exist. Is she gonna come against it again? Unless you're gonna keep her in a box, like she's going to see it again. And these are the type of like these are the scenarios that happen when we teach the kids. Well, forget them. Like they don't matter, and that's with anything, not just the transsexual or transgender. Gotta get the right term. Like it's with everybody.
Can
So
you
that's
guys hear me?
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to talk and shit, and my mic was on muted. Um, but no, I just wanted to say, I think that what it really comes down to is this: was Hamp out of line for what you did? No. Are you out of line, P, for or Alex for, you know, respecting them? No. I don't think that there is a way that you can be proper about something like that because on one hand, if you show that level of respect, now we create this idea that in society there are no boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like if we just wake up today and decide we want to have sex with animals and normalize that, we can do that because we've gone this far with forcing people to say that I was born a boy. They can see that I'm a boy, but I want to be called a girl, so they have to call me that. So we have to. It's a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if Hamp felt obligated as a parent
Mm-hmm.
to speak truth to his daughter from his perspective and say, no, that's what you need to do, then he's right in that. And
Mm-hmm.
he has the right to do that. Um, I lived a homosexual life for a very long time, and still in the homosexual community. And well, I guess I would consider it lesbian because there's all types of rules. Like if you're a woman, you can't be gay, whatever. So um, with that being said, I was married for some time, and in that marriage, I had a son. And I remember my then wife and myself at that time teaching our son, two women being together is not natural. Two men being together is not natural. We chose to teach him that because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want my son to be gay. But there's like this idea in society that we have to have, like if you don't go along with the rules that and I'm going to say it, the LGBTQ community creates, then you're automatically a hater or you're automatically against them, and it's like, no, live and let live.
Yep.
So I don't think you did shit wrong. If he was born a nigga, the nigga was a nigga. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I struggle with calling people. I don't feel, it doesn't come natural to me to be like she or girl, and I can see you're a guy. That does not come natural to me for me to call you that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
each his own. But y'all
think
better
there's a
say what
delicate
you say.
balance. I think there's a delicate balance to piggyback on what Q said. There's a delicate balance, and there needs to be a conversation had. Because outside of a professional setting, someone on the street that you may encounter, like a Hamp in the grocery store, you may choose never to address. And
Mm-hmm.
is it disrespectful if you don't address? Is it not polite? Is it impolite? There's a lot of there's a lot of rules or unwritten rules that are most of us are unaware of, right? So it's a really delicate conversation to have, and I think feelings and emotions have to be removed when you have the conversation because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to get to a place where we are legislating speech,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where we're out like the question you asked was obligation. Is there an obligation to address someone by their pronoun? Where do you draw the line to say if I don't address you? Is it disrespectful if I don't address you? Because that's where we get a little bit from our more fair-skinned counterparts, right? A lot of white people won't address you, like in a direct way, as sir or whatever, just because you're a black man or black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that disrespectful? Are they obligated to do it? I don't know, but I think it's a delicate conversation.
But to also be fair to your point, there's a difference in
Pete, one
not
second.
addressing.
Caddy, go real quick, and then you could
Oh, my
chime.
bad. I'm sorry.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is all insightful. But I guess my views kind of align with Q. Me and my partner to this day, we have like conversations all the time about the gays and just the LGBTQ plus community, and we're just like, we're not a part of that. We just love each other. We're just gonna get
Mm-hmm.
married, and we're just gonna have babies, and so it's like, love is love, period.
Caddy, before
And the way I see it, love is love, respect is respect. I'm an HR practitioner, so organizationally, I have a responsibility to make sure that everyone within the organization is respected. Socially, my own views may differ in a sense, meaning if I were to come across a trans person and I had a child and my child questioned whether or not this person was a boy or a girl based off of what I perceived this person as being, if they
Mm-hmm.
looked like a boy in women's clothing, I would tell her, yes, that's a boy. Now, if the trans person came to me and said, hey, I'm not a boy, I'm a trans woman or whatever, I would say, okay, I hear you, I understand, but this is my daughter, and I'm going to tell my daughter what I want to tell my daughter. Okay, so we can go ahead and have this conversation separately, but sometimes I do feel like, especially now, man, like the LGBTQ plus community, like this movement is amazing, and I'm riding the wave now. Don't get it twisted. I'm riding with it. But it's almost as if it leaves no room for conversation. It leaves no room for someone to disagree with how they feel, or else they get deemed as being homophobic, and that's kind of scary, because that's not the type of world we should be living in. We should be allowed to have our own opinions, but still also extend grace to each other too, and do things in a respectful manner.
Okay, Corey, your thoughts?
Oh shit.
I didn't see any. What you said, Sean? No, I didn't see any issue with and first off, Master Corey, get my pronouns right. But anyway, no, I didn't see any problem with what you did, Hamp. I think I don't think it's disrespectful to not participate in, whatever it is that the transgender community, wishes you participate in. Like, they may want you to call them whatever, but if you don't feel like you want to call them that, I don't think that's necessarily disrespectful. I don't think you have to participate in that. You can call them by what they were born, and I think that's fine. Um, yeah, so I don't see no problem with how you handled it. I would probably handle it similarly. I ain't got time to figure out, what you want to be called. I'm gonna call it from how I see it, and that's what it is. And that's that.
Yeah, and this was a big Andre the Giant ass nigga too. Like it was. I'm like, come on, my
Right.
lineman for my flag football team. That's what I wanted to ask.
Mhm.
Um, but it's interesting, right? And Caddy, your partner's a girl, right?
A woman.
A
Yes.
woman.
Ooh, corrected you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very grown.
I got these buttons over here, Caddy. You don't. So just
Mhm. Corrected you.
um, yeah. So it is interesting, and it's so eggshell esque, right? It's very similar to like. Do y'all remember the feeling after God bless the dead, George Floyd? Man, we was in. All of us was showing out, right? Because we had a little leeway. During that time, at my company, I asked for Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth, and we got both before it was even a federal holiday. Because we had a lot of leverage at that point too. People, white people was walking around eggshells around us. The Karen movement really got going. We didn't have to take no shit for a long time. You know, and so with the LGBTQ movement, right, which is what's going now, right? It seems very similar to where like anything said, anything adverse, anything done, right, not to people's liking, you could get, quote unquote canceled, so on and so forth. Um, so P, I know you wanted to jump in, so I want to make sure I open the floor for that
Oh no, we good.
after Caddy. Remember, because Caddy was
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate the candor, right? Because everybody like there's some dope ass views, you know what I mean? And oftentimes things get siloed, right? Where because you see like with Dave Chappelle,
I was just about to bring that up.
right, and a transgender woman who came out against him, right? And you think like, oh, everyone who whatever their lifestyle is, or maybe within that group, or being classified in that group is thinking like that, right? Is looking at Dave Chappelle like that, so on and so forth. So it's just good to see people who, again, they would classify in the group. It's just with a little bit different opinions, right? So I just want to say I appreciate it. I appreciate the candor. Any last thoughts on that topic? Everybody good?
No, I was just gonna say shit. We ain't both finna lie to no kid. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right, right.
it
Yeah.
is what it is. You know what I'm
The
saying?
name and address.
So how you gonna put yourself in a position to lie to your daughter?
Yeah.
That's really what that would have been.
Yeah.
And not
Right.
only that, how are you going to force me to have the conversation with my child now? Who's to say I'm ready to have this conversation with my child now. Like, don't do that. You're not paying no bills over here. Like,
Right.
let me spend my time with my child.
Yeah,
Word.
tell them you ain't paying the bills and the church ain't paying the bills either.
That
There
part.
you go.
Hey, Q, good shit. Way to tie shit together, man. You a fucking genius, girl. I appreciate it, man. Look, that's the